Welcome, everybody, to the Jim Masters Show, Entertainment, Lifestyle, Celebrity Talk Show series. Hope you're doing well. We appreciate you joining us from all around the world. I am your host, Jim Masters, here in the host chair. That must mean I have some work to do. Yes, that's entertain, inspire, and inform you guys as we do with all the great episodes of our series. And we always have extraordinary guests that come in from all around the world who are doing great things to make our world a fantastic place. They're coming in from Broadway and Hollywood and television and film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, comedy, inspiration, and so much more. Hope you're doing well. If you would like to comment during the course of our broadcast, you are more than welcome to, since we're on right now. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and you can actually comment during the course of our broadcast in our lovely whole chat room, as we call it. The chat room we've got that's open and available for our viewers, who are sort of like our studio audience when the show is on. And during the course of the broadcast, you can comment, say hello to one another. We can see some of the comments as well, and we appreciate you doing that. Thanks for all the support of our series. We're inching on almost 1,000 episodes now in such a short time, which is absolutely extraordinary. And during this broadcast, we have something quite special. We're going to be talking about something that is real Americana, a wonderful tradition. We're celebrating the National First Ladies Day with Presidential Descendants and the kickoff ceremony during the annual Cherry Blossom Festival. Now, if this is all new to you, or maybe you heard a little bit about it, I want to tell you a little bit about this extraordinary event that happens. Of course, it is that time of the year where things are starting to bloom and blossom post-winter, and we're so happy about that. This is the celebration of the National First Ladies Day, and that's hashtag First Ladies Day. So you can note that, with the descendants of many of America's greatest First Ladies. The National First Ladies Day Commission announced that the National First Ladies Day is observed this year on Saturday, April 29th. The national kickoff ceremony held in Marshfield, Missouri during the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival. The day is an occasion to highlight the community service and those wonderful opportunities as such in communities, and to demonstrate the results of community service projects. Now, what's very exciting, let me tell you about some of the participants who are going to be a part of this. And we have two as special guests. Ceremony participants for this wonderful event include Massee McKinley, great-great-nephew of, yes, President William McKinley, as well as Mary Jean Eisenhower and Clifton Truman, Daniel, grandson of President Harry and Bess Truman, Patricia M. Taft, great-granddaughter of President William Taft, Jennifer Coolidge, Salis Harville, great-granddaughter, and Margaret Hayes Clark, great-granddaughters of Rutherford B. Hayes. Program will be featuring the 135th Army Band Brass Ensemble, which is really exciting. And the Society of Presidential Descendants are individuals with a direct lineage to the presidents of the United States. The National First Ladies Library is the foremost repository of scholarly research and also information, and a leader in education about the first ladies of the USA. I want to tell you a bit about dates and things of that nature. It is coming up Saturday, April 29th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. That is Central Time. It's happening at the Marshfield High School Gymnasium in Marshfield, Missouri, during the annual Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival. The National First Ladies Day is celebrated again in April every year to honor all the First Ladies of the United States. The National First Ladies Day Commission is made up of, again, the Society of Presidential Descendants. Remember, we'll show you websites and different things that and emails and all that you can connect with to learn more and be a part of it as well. But they're members of the National First Ladies Library, and historians and community builders and several experts on the American First Ladies to celebrate a day of service honoring the First Ladies of the United States. The day commemorates the founding of the First Ladies of the United States, Martha Washington, of course, in conjunction with the inauguration of President George Washington on April 30th, 1789. And the last Saturday of April is the day to recognize the role First Ladies have played in molding our nation. American citizens share love and, of course, reverence for the First Ladies who valiantly and selflessly served their husbands, their country, and the American people. And while they aren't elected per se. Many of them campaign alongside their spouse. Others have served as elected or appointed officials in many different capacities. In addition to serving as the hostess of the White House, the First Lady is elected or appointed to ceremonial roles, such as honorary president of the Girl Scouts or the Committee for the Preservation of the White House. First ladies are educated activists, advocates, and nurturers. Since the very first cherry blossom planting in 1912 by First Lady Helen Harron Taft, the National Cherry Blossom Festival has become a major event drawing tourists and locals alike to Washington, D.C. and communities around the nation. We have two very special guests who can really inform us even more about this illustrious event. We are very honored to welcome to the show. Get ready, folks. It's quite exciting. First of all, Reverend Nicholas Inman is here, coming to us from Missouri, and special guest as well, Massee McKinley is joining us from Atlanta, Georgia, great-great-nephew of President William McKinley. Gentlemen, welcome to the Jim Masters Show. It's truly an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure you can join us.
It's an honor to be with you.
So tell us about this extraordinary event and how this Cherry Blossom Festival intertwines with the Society of Presidential Descendants and celebrating the First Ladies. It sounds like something very, very special and extraordinary on many levels.
Massee, do you want to start?
I'll let you start, Nicholas.
Okay. So the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival focuses on the preservation of American history. And at the very first Cherry Blossom Festival here 18 years ago, we had a reunion of presidential descendants for a project that we were working on here in Marshfield. And from that came the comment, can we come back? And so they've gathered here annually, all 18 years, pretty large representation of presidential administrations. And so when the National Commission began to discuss a location to have the national kickoff, of course, it only seemed appropriate that we would be connected to the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival with so many administrations being represented here.
That is incredible. And Massee, how does it feel to be a part of something so special like this?
You know, I'm so glad that Nicholas had the idea to come up with an actual event that would honor our first ladies, because a lot of times they're not as recognized as members of all 46 United States presidents, and they make great contributions to the betterment of our country. And I can't think of any better way to honor them by having this event. So I'm thrilled, and I'm really honored to be a part of it.
Tell us about the event itself. What is it like, and what can people expect? And I imagine it's a family day. It's welcoming to all ages, right? From all around.
Sure. Well, the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival itself is several days of panels and lectures and dinners and plays and all kinds of events that are family friendly that focus on the preservation of history. But the First Ladies' Day kickoff itself will be a ceremony that will involve several presidential administrations and really focus and highlight and celebrate the nation's first ladies. And it is an honor to have so many of them here. Our co-chair persons, Massee McKinley, who of course is here in this interview, and Mary Jean Eisenhower will take part in the ceremony. In fact, Massee is singing, so you don't want to miss that. He has a great talent for singing.
No little preview, Massee, at all?
The spot, but he's so
what are you going to sing? Yankee Doodle Dandy? Or
I think we've settled on God Bless America.
That's always a good one.
Absolutely.
That's a great one. Do you have a singing background at all? Have you been?
I do, Jim. My mom sang for many, many years and was a trained soprano. So I got it honestly from her, and just made that a conscious effort to further that. And I do sing now, but not as much as I'd like to.
Yeah. So, Reverend, you were explaining some more about the details of this illustrious event.
Yeah, so we'll have several different speakers, and it's just going to really be a great kickoff to encourage us all to go out into our communities, roll up our sleeves, and work for the betterment of the nation and our communities, which, of course, follows the example of our first ladies. And I think it's so unusual because most holidays encourage us to stay home from work and not do anything that actually is physical. So this will be the only actual holiday that encourages us to roll up our sleeves and go out into work. So at the conclusion of the ceremony, we're going to, I think our service project is going to be related to the cherry blossom trees, and it'll be really nice to do something in that regard physically.
That's fantastic. So, to have an opportunity to celebrate people who have done such extraordinary things for the benefit of our society as a people, bringing us all together. First ladies, are quite special. They're sort of like the glue on many levels. Sometimes they're not necessarily always out front. Although I would say these days, probably the first ladies are more out front than maybe they were in previous years. But when you look back at all the years and celebrate the lives of these extraordinary women, it's so important to stop and to pause and take time to do that, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, Jim, going back through the years, I mean, there's so many first ladies that have made such an indelible mark on not only the presidents that they served alongside, but history in general. Because had it not been for Jacqueline Kennedy back in the 1960s restoring the White House, we wouldn't have the glamour and the beauty that exists at that particular residence today, because that was her conscious personal effort to make sure that we restored that house to the beauty that it once was. So, and I think about LBJ's wife, Lady Bird Johnson, and the flower beautification project all over the country. I mean, Helen Herron Taft with the cherry blossoms. Many of the first ladies, especially my great great aunt Ida Saxton McKinley, they said there's no telling how many knitted socks she made during the war efforts during the Spanish-American War. So there's just so many examples of just valiant efforts by these first ladies through the years to the contributions of our country. And I'm just so honored to be a part of that.
Tell us about the Society of Presidential Descendants as well. That sounds like something extraordinary. How did that all come about?
So the society was started by a handful of presidential descendants: myself, Tweed Roosevelt, who's the great grandson of Theodore Roosevelt, Linda Johnson, Rob, who is the daughter of LBJ, Susan Bell Ford, who also was one of the instrumental founders of the society, and we also had, of course, Mary Jean Eisenhower as well. She was a part of that, and also Clifton Truman Daniel. So we all came together. We said there's no organization that's legitimate that represents all of the presidential descendants. So we decided, first off, we would come up with a society that would provide camaraderie, because a lot of the descendants don't know each other, and they still don't know each other. And that's one of our efforts, Jim, to make sure that a lot of the descendants know each other. But we also had something greater in mind. We wanted to have a service-oriented organization where we would actually have a book award every other year that would celebrate a book that's dedicated to presidential leadership, and the best book would actually gain a prize, monetary prize for that. We also have a National Day of Civics that we recognize because a lot of the country is so well, they're well educated about it, but I don't think they do a good job probably in the primary and the secondary levels of our education, because a lot of kids just don't know how government works. And I think we wanted to actually have a National Day of Civics in order to promote that. And then thirdly, Jim, we have actually a part of our organization that dedicates to presidential preservation and presidential studies. And that's, we actually award scholarship money for those who want to study the presidency. So those three things, combined with all the many other things that we do, that comprises what we do at the Society of Presidential Descendants.
That's extraordinary. How could people get involved? Is that something that people can get involved? Is there Is there fundraising? Is there anything where people can roll up their sleeves and get involved in that organization?
Sure, they can go to our website, and that is www.societyofpresidentialdescendants.org. They can join as a contributing member. There's a student level that they contribute to, and they can also come to some of the events that we have. And everything, Jim, that we do is all educational driven. So everything that that we have as far as programming is as educational, and I can't think of any better way to get involved than actually to come to some of the events that we have.
That's fantastic. And do they happen generally in the DC area, or is it something all around the country?
So we've had the book award in New York, which was 2 years ago. This coming September, we'll have another book award, and it'll actually be in Washington, D.C. But all of the sites that we plan on visiting through the years will actually be all over, of course, all over the United States. And we'll celebrate the different presidents during that particular point in time. We call it the gathering. It's the gathering of presidential descendants, but it's really an opportunity to celebrate each of the 46 presidents. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do that before everything is completed with our projects.
I know that schools and communities are also encouraged to celebrate the day with events and programs in connection with National First Ladies Day, also to showcase service and action with local governments. Did you want to tell us more about that, gentlemen?
Well, to piggyback off of what Massey just mentioned about the Society of Presidential Descendants, we've really felt as a commission that the civics opportunity throughout the week leading up to National First Ladies Day was crucial, as we felt that there were so many first ladies that were unsung and were being missed by future generations of Americans. So we wanted classrooms across America to have an opportunity to really showcase those wonderful achievements of the first ladies. And so we hope to see that happen, and maybe they'll learn about lesser known first ladies and hostesses compared to those that often make the headlines.
Right.
Now, Massey, you are the paternal ancestor, 25th U.S. President William McKinley, great-great-nephew of the president. McKinley's maternal ancestor is the 22nd and 24th U.S. President, Grover Cleveland. Written for 3 former U.S. House speakers, founding partner of Peerage Communications, LLC, an executive and political communications boutique consulting firm headquartered in Atlanta. Tell us about some of the work that you do in addition to this kind of work to sort of preserve the memory of your illustrious ancestors.
Yeah. Well, I think, a lot of what I do and that's why I think I've really formed a really good, close relationship with the Cherry Blossom Festival, is because they do intend to preserve and really show admiration for the presidents and the first ladies. And so a lot of what I've done over the years has been mainly connected to the Cherry Blossom Festival. I think, Nicholas, this is probably my 4th or 5th visit, I think, to the Cherry Blossom Festival. But really and truly, we as presidential descendants, and especially myself, we try to connect with the presidential libraries in order to provide some of the programming for those libraries. I know a lot of our presidential descendants intend to go to the libraries and actually do educational programming with them. So that's very important to me. My background in communications is key, because I think you get a greater understanding about how government works, and you're able to make connections that sometimes you're not able to make with a lot of things. And I think our presidential descendants have had a really good track record, connecting with the different forms of government, the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian Institution. And we've been able to actually, make inroads to try to make sure that some of the programming for the presidents and for the first ladies is including in a lot of their programming as well.
When you have an opportunity to sort of dig in deep and do research and realize, the ancestral backgrounds that we all have For you, Massee, what are some things that you discovered about our President McKinley and the family ties that you found to be either exciting or just something that, it really touches your heart that you have this lineage in the way that you do?
Yeah, Jim, William McKinley, of course, was the last Civil War president. He was
Yeah.
the last U.S. president to actually serve in the Civil War, and I think primarily, I have great admiration for William McKinley because he had so much focus on faith, freedom, duty to family, and duty to country, and he had so much great devotion to his wife, Ida Saxton McKinley. Ida was an invalid most of her life, and I think William's duty to his wife was really, a special love story because William really and truly he lived for his wife because every decision that he made in the White House was really centered on his wife. She was always included at the special the dinners that they had there at the White House. And traditionally, the first lady does not sit beside the president at formal dinners, but she actually did sit beside him because a lot of times she would have epileptic seizures, and he would actually place a napkin on top of her face until she would come to, and then he would remove the napkin after that episode happened. So I tell you, for someone who had so much loss in his life, he lost both daughters at a very young age. And then, of course, his wife was an invalid. You really have to have great admiration for William McKinley because I truly think that he went above and beyond in taking care of his wife. And then also, too, in making sure that our country was as strong as it became because McKinley really made the pitch after the Spanish-American War that we really needed to focus on industrialization and the furtherment of the success of business in our country. And it did come to fruition because I think after the election of 1896 and our defeating the Spanish in the Spanish-American War, we really were a powerhouse to be dealt with around the world. And we really and truly made probably the greatest strides in foreign policy that we have in many, many, many years.
Hmm. Beautifully said, and you're amazing in terms of how you've just been able to lay that out in such a way that makes you feel connected to our American history and coming from a proud descendant, which is extraordinary. Reverend, you too, you have put your heart and soul into all of this incredible work. You organize the National First Ladies Day Commission, and you're the founder of the National First Ladies Day. And you're the founder and president of the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival, which focuses on the preservation of American history. You also serve on the board, which I think is a beautiful thing, of the Rosalind Smith Carter Childhood Garden in Plains, Georgia. And of course, you're there in Missouri. Tell us about some of that work that you do as well and your beautiful efforts, Reverend.
Well, I guess you could just say I'm a history nerd. It all kind of comes together.
Sums right up to that, right?
It does. Yeah. But, first ladies I've been interested in them a good portion of my life. This is kind of a long-term thing for me. When I was in the fourth grade, then President George H.W. Bush and Barbara Bush came to our city to visit for the 4th of July. We have the oldest 4th of July parade west of the Mississippi River. And so the president and first lady came for a town of 6,000 people. That was a big deal. Yes. And being in the parade that day, I was determined as I approached the reviewing stand that I was going to yell out at Barbara Bush. And she waved at me when I did, pointed at me, waved at me. I could have melted in the middle of the street. And from then on, I was hooked. I had never really been engaged with the news and things. And so from that point forward, I was interested what the president was doing, what the first lady was doing. They'd been to our town. And from that point, I really say that day planted a seed in me to be interested in history and become a historian. And I really feel laid a foundation that built upon to eventually lead to the Cherry Blossom Festival and other projects that centered around history. And Barbara Bush told me years later when I shared that story, if I'd have known what that had caused, I'd have never waved at you. But yeah, the first ladies have been a part of my life for a good portion of my life. And so I've been honored to have met or known every first lady since Lady Bird Johnson. And they've been significant role models in my life. So I can say they've really affected my journey of history.
You're also, as I mentioned, which I think is something extra special as well. You're on the board of the Rosalind Smith Carter Childhood Garden in Plains, Georgia. What is that like? Of course, the Carter family is in our thoughts right now, of course.
Mrs. Carter is a remarkable woman. And I think it's very significant that her niece, Leanne Smith in Plains, who was the daughter of her brother, lives in the childhood home where Mrs. Carter grew up. And they've taken the lot next to the home and they're restoring it to the childhood garden, flowers that Mrs. Carter would have been familiar with as she was developing as a girl. And just in the last few months, they've opened the garden to school groups, and to see pictures and reports of children from all over the area of Georgia visiting and learning about both the flowers and Mrs. Carter, I think is significant, because I think Mrs. Carter is a significant role model for every American at an age where she could have decided to put her feet up and retire and enjoy and look back upon all the work she'd done for the nation. She decided that we had a problem with the pollinators and the bees and butterflies all dying off, that she decided to start the Rosalind Carter Butterfly Trail. And so that plays into the childhood garden, a significant role in that. And so it's appropriate that they would bring to life this project that would really focus on something that she felt was a national problem, because it'll eventually affect the food sources and many other things. Mrs. Carter's she's just cool. I'll just say it that way. She's a real role model. Massee mentioning about the first lady being seated next to the president was so rare in the time of the McKinley administration. But we know from historical observation that Mrs. Carter was kind of the right hand to Jimmy Carter. She was present at all the cabinet meetings. She was a force that he certainly consulted, was there for the Camp David Peace Accords. She's just been significant with Habitat for Humanity and caregiving. She spoke about mental health when it was a taboo subject. And now, every time we see a great tragedy in the nation with a school shooting or something, what's the national discussion? It's not only about guns, but it goes to mental health, which Mrs. Carter was talking about in the 1970s. So I think it's a great honor to serve on the board of the Childhood Garden and to honor Mrs. Carter, who is involved in that project, and to see her celebrated.
Massee, you mentioned you're the founding partner of Peerage Communications, LLC, which is an executive and political communications boutique consulting firm headquartered right there in Atlanta. Tell us about some of the work you do with Peerage.
So a lot of my clients have been political clients and corporate clients. I've worked over the years with Delta, Coca-Cola, with, of course, all the former 3 House speakers that I mentioned. And really and truly, most of the work that I've done has been word of mouth, Jim. So I really have become the speaker's speechwriter, really, because I got a chance to represent 3 of the House speakers during their tenure in office, and also have really gotten a chance to write for a lot of the corporate powerhouses here in Atlanta, Home Depot. Of course, I said Coca-Cola and Delta. So really and truly, you write politically, you also write corporately, and a lot of times, a lot of that goes hand in hand, because many of the leaders in this country have so many connections, and they kind of overlap in corporate and political environments. So really and truly, I've been blessed to have been able to do many things, both on the corporate and the political side.
That's extraordinary. And Reverend, tell us about some of the other folks that are a part of the National First Ladies Day Commission. I know you mentioned Mary Jean Eisenhower and others.
Yeah, so you listed several of the presidential descendants that we have represented, but we also have Dr. Andy Person, who has been very instrumental in working with the national calendar people to declare National First Ladies Day, as they had originally chosen Martha Washington's birthday. And we worked with them because, as you mentioned, the significance of the date of Washington's inauguration, to move it to a Saturday so people would be off work. It'd be close to April
Right.
30th and they could go out and work. So Dr. Andy Person was very instrumental in that.
You
We have
know, there's one degree of separation, and the world is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. He currently serves as director of the Long Island University Stephen S. Hornstein Center for Policy, Polling, and Analysis. And as you mentioned, he's been instrumental in focusing Long Island University's independent polling and empirical research and analysis on a wide range of public issues. That's my alma mater.
Oh, really? How fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's been fantastic to work with. And Andrew Oak, who we call the First Ladies Man, he was very instrumental in C-SPAN's series on the First Ladies.
Yes.
So he's been a great voice at the table. Jenny Heifeld, who was the director at the National First Ladies Library in Canton, Ohio. So we have a great group of us, including those presidential descendants that you listed, who have all been very engaged and very interested in seeing the First Ladies put forth into the limelight as a day to honor them. We have President's Day, so why shouldn't we have First Ladies Day? And our
Exactly.
commission really wants to see the effort take place for it to be declared a national holiday. And so that's what we're working on now, and hopefully we'll see that. So, call your congressman and your senator, and we hope to get presidential support with some kind of a day declared that will be the last Saturday of every April as National First Ladies Day.
I think that's fantastic. It's such a beautiful. When you wanted to create this, what was the inspiration for you, Reverend? What was it about wanting to create this, celebrating the First Ladies?
Well, you'd mentioned Rosalind Carter. I have family in Georgia, so I try to visit Plains, Georgia 2 or 3 times a year. And watching Mrs. Carter personally and observing her moves and her actions as she's been involved in so many different projects, I was sitting there one day watching her and I was thinking, this is a moment of history that I really need to absorb. And I always take my daughter with me, who's a teenager. And so I was saying to her, someday you will look back and you will say, I saw Rosalind Carter, I saw Jimmy Carter, and I witnessed the words that came from them about these different moments that they had witnessed themselves. And I thought, not every American appreciates the role of First Lady the way that I've been fortunate to experience it, and others have been. And so I thought, we need a day to celebrate them. And I watched the Carters personally roll up their sleeves several times to work on projects when they probably shouldn't have been doing such because of their age and condition. And I thought, they're role models. And this does just not be a day where we send flowers and cards. It needs to be a day when we really roll up our sleeves like they have demonstrated and so many others have across the aisle. And that's one thing I really want to emphasize in this interview today. This is a bipartisan day where we celebrate all of the First Ladies and their contributions. And, even our bachelor president, James Buchanan, had a White House hostess with his niece, Harriet Lane. And you think about the diplomatic moves that take place in seating arrangements at state dinners and the behind the scene moves that have shaped history a great deal. Betty Ford once said it was the woman behind the man that was making most of the decisions anyways. And, history tells us that maybe Edith Wilson was even acting as president for a time when Woodrow Wilson was recovering from a stroke. So these women have had significant roles in behind the scenes and in front of the curtains as we've shaped the history of the nation. And it needs to be preserved and it needs to be celebrated.
I would imagine you both have more than likely had the privilege of visiting the White House over the years.
Yes.
Yes.
What was that like the very first time you stepped in that building for you, Massee, knowing the lineage and the history of all of it?
Yeah, Jim, it was a very special time for me because I think the first thing Of course, the Oval Office is very special. It's probably one of the most hallowed offices in the entire world because a lot of important decisions come from that office. But I'll tell you, the most special time for me was when I actually got a chance to visit the East Room. In the East Room, along the wall, you see the portraits of William McKinley on the left, George and Martha Washington in the middle, and then Theodore Roosevelt on the end. And I never really knew, Jim, this story until I actually, got a chance to actually see the portrait of McKinley. And it's probably my favorite portrait because it's a very, very dignified portrait of McKinley. But I researched and I found out, Jim, that the lady who painted the portrait was actually a female. Many people thought for many, many years that it was actually a male that painted that portrait. And it actually was a lady by the name, she went by the name of Sturdivant. And everybody thought that was a male name, but it actually was a female name. It was a pseudonym that she used. And so I thought to myself, in this particular room that has seen so much history, beginning with John Adams' wife, Abigail Adams, using it as a laundry room, because back then the White House was not fully, actually fully decorated and actually had furniture in it. So I think from that time on until the time that we see it now today, it is a special place, and it's a special place for a special reason, because special men and women inhabited that house, and they made important decisions. They furthered the cause of freedom, and done so with so much great integrity. So I'm just, it's a special place to me for sure. Every time I go, it's a special time and place for me to visit.
What was it like when you were a kid and you were able to let the other kids know who your relatives were? I mean, you probably always won show and tell at least.
Yeah, my dad was a history teacher, Jim, and I learned at the breakfast table at the age of like 6 or 7 who I was related to, and my dad always made the point. He said, Massee, you have a very special lineage, but he says, do not let that go to your head, because any young man or woman can become president one day. And he said, keep that as an humble reminder that, be proud of who you're related to, but never boast. And I think that was wise, wisdom that he gave me, Jim, because, we're an accident of birth. I always say my fellow descendants, we're accidents of birth, because most of the people who inhabited that office, are just great men, and I could never aspire to be that great, but I am proud of the heritage and the lineage that I have, and that's why we have such a special part in making sure that lineage and that heritage and that preservation of history continues.
Do you feel that the younger generations are as appreciative? Do you find pockets of the younger generation wanting to learn about, our history and Americana, and the purpose and the value of being here in America and what it's all about? Do you find that to be the case?
Probably 20 years ago, I think there was a lack of interest, but I'm seeing a renewed interest in wanting to learn more about our country and learn about government and learn about why this country is the greatest country on earth. And I'm really proud of that, because I was really concerned, over the years, that I think that young people have really gotten chance. They've had a chance to learn about it, but a lot of them have not taken the initiative to learn about it, Jim. So I think the renewal of that interest is encouraging. And I see that because I see so many young people that come to special events that we have throughout the country, and they go to, their families take them on, special trips during the summer to the presidential libraries and the presidential sites. So the renewed interest in that, and the fact that you see so many kids, actually, entering, presidential history contest and those type of things. I think there's a renewed interest in learning about our country and about the presidency and first ladies.
Anything you want to add to that, Reverend?
Well, I certainly agree. I think we're often in a bubble here in the Midwest of learning about history because it's really important here as part of the fabric of who we are. But I think I certainly would agree with that. I think there's certainly more civics interest, and what a great time to roll out First Ladies Day when we can just tag on to that and continue to further education. When you look at our history, the history of the United States, we're a young nation compared to the history of Europe and other places. So we should be just soaking up all of our history. My grandmother always says, learn from others' mistakes because you'll never live long enough to make them all yourself. And that is exactly what history allows us to do.
That's sage advice for sure. Absolutely. Your first visit to the White House, what was that like, Reverend?
Oh, all I could think of in walking through the door, as I mentioned, being this little history nerd, all I could think of is these walls could talk. Within these walls, the defining moments of a nation have been drafted and discussed, and leaders from across the world have assembled here. The great minds of entertainment and in the arts, and all those things. I was overwhelmed, and my mother would probably tell you as well. The few times she found me speechless, it was just amazing to walk around through the rooms and to know as a historian, as Massee mentioned, the things that had taken place within those rooms and the pictures that you'd seen over the years of who had been in there before you. I just was overwhelmed. It was a fantastic moment. And it was something I'll never forget. And we want to be invited back, don't we, Massee?
That's right.
Yes.
First Ladies Day is enacted into law or executive order or whatever it is. We hope that the commission will be invited. We would be grateful for that opportunity.
I would recommend anybody, watching this, whether they're in the United States or coming for a visit, what have you, to go to the nation's capital and visit some of those incredible monuments and those historic sites, and really appreciate it. I remember the very first time that I went to Washington, D.C., I was in 5th grade, and our teacher in New York, out east on Long Island, Paul Cohen, selected students that had, I guess, achieved some high grades. And if you got a trip to Washington, D.C. We stayed at the Regency Motor Inn, if that's even existing anymore. And I remember paddling those paddle boats in the Potomac past the Jefferson Memorial. And, everything was in bloom, and going to the Washington Monument. And we couldn't visit the White House at that time. It wasn't available. It wasn't open. But the Smithsonian, and just, it's really extraordinary. You get such a sense of grounding and pride and appreciation when you do visit, even with all the craziness that goes on. Still, the bottom line is the pride and appreciation for who we are, what we're about, and the importance of being an American, and how we are as people. Empathetic, kind. We do roll up our sleeves when the chips are down. We do come together, even though sometimes it doesn't always seem like we do. But when chips are down, we do come together from all different cultures and backgrounds, which is what part and parcel makes this existence here between these shores so beautiful. So I would recommend anybody go to DC, and also to celebrate these events and these organizations. A lot of times people do say, boy, there's nothing else prideful happening anymore. You turn on the news and everything is so negative. There's a lot of like this. I mean, the Cherry Blossom Fest and all these things that do happen in our communities are a blessing and a joy. And, I've said often, I remember when in '86, President Reagan and Nancy Reagan came to New York for the 100th birthday celebration of the Statue of Liberty, and it had just been restored, and it was beautiful. And Francois Mitterrand came from France and sort of rededicated it, and how incredible those 4 days of Liberty weekend was. And people who have never seen it or heard of it, you can see clips of it on YouTube, the celebration as covered by the ABC network. It was absolutely incredible. Celebrities, entertainers, politicians, everyday people, fireworks, ships, and it was extraordinary. And I love things like that. I would like for something like that to happen again, to continue to bring us all together, the sort of unifying Americana we're so good at doing. Um, I think David L. Wolper, one of the Hollywood producers, actually produced the whole thing and just brought it all together. Beautiful. They're in the Meadowlands too, and it was just really terrific. But to know that things like this exist, like what you fine gentlemen are doing, and rolling up your sleeves and celebrating, I think is I tip the hat to you both. I think it's absolutely beautiful and something that we need more of in our society, in our culture.
Yes. Thank you.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
The pleasure is all mine. Let's give folks the information once again. There, of course, is the Society of Presidential Descendants.org. Invite you to check that out. CherryBlossomFest.com as well. The National First Ladies Day. We got National First Ladies Day, NATL, First Ladies Day, gmail.com. And really exciting. I'll ask each of you individually. What are some of those? And I love to ask the guests this on this particular series, who come from all different backgrounds. What are some of the blessings and joys in your life that keep you doing what you do? Massee?
You know, I love volunteerism, Jim, and I think what better and special way to do that than to celebrate not only history but the presidency and the first ladies and our joint effort with the Cherry Blossom Festival for this particular event. I love history and I love the opportunity to focus on that, but volunteerism is the way of life, and I think if you don't find something that you're passionate and you're interested in, then you've lost a lot out in life. And I think my parents encouraged that, and I definitely want to strive to do more of that. And I hope that because of our efforts with the Cherry Blossom Festival, we'll encourage more young people and more citizens across this country to do more of that.
That is beautifully said, and I agree. And Reverend, how about you? What are some of those? Being a reverend, you are surrounded by lots of blessing and joy as well, and you offer it up in an inspiring way every day for people, lifting people up. And I'm a big believer in that, and kindness and empathy. What are some of the blessings and joys in your life that keep you doing what you do?
I think the blessing of being an American, we take that for granted. To live in a country where we can believe what we want to believe, serve the God that we want to serve, to be able to have freedom. I look at my children and I think I want them to grow up in the same country that I grew up in and have an appreciation for its history and its people. And that's why projects like First Ladies Day and the Cherry Blossom Festival are so important to me. We're hosting right now an exchange student from Spain. And it really gives you a whole nother perspective of what it's like to live in the land that we live in. And so I feel blessed to be an American and to have all of those things in my life. And they encourage me to be a better citizen of this nation. And I think that's what First Ladies Day allows us to do, is to look at ways that we can serve in ways that we might not always identify, to celebrate the country that we love, to make it the best that it can be.
Beautifully said. Hear, hear. Absolutely. I agree. You gentlemen are really something special. Thanks for all of the efforts and all the hard work and sharing your joy and sharing in the history of America in the beautiful way that you do. I mean, cherry blossoms, they're pretty snappy, aren't they? They're nice. People look forward to those the cherry blossoms, the forsythia, the early, blooms coming out, gives you that sense of the tulips peeking through. I have a green thumb. I'm a gardener on the side. You guys appreciate that, I'm sure. When you see those first glimpses of those things popping out after the long winters, there's again a rebirth, a sense of hope once again that, yes, no matter what goes on during the course of the year, the cycle of life continues. I say that about Christmas music all the time as well. Big fan of it and have huge collections of it. And it's always been on in our house over the years and still is. That no matter whatever happens in your life during the course of those 12 months, here comes Christmas again. Here comes the music and the message and the love and the family and all the things that are wrapped around the holiday. And it happens towards the end of the year as that new year is getting ready to blossom, pun intended. And it's reassuring when you hear the Christmas music. They're almost reassuring lullabies that you've heard since you were born. And there they are again to sort of put the stamp on, hey, no matter what goes on, life still continues, and there's a reason to celebrate life. Just like what you're doing with the Cherry Blossom Festival and everything else. It's a reminder of the cycle of life in many different ways. We could do a whole hour on that. That's deep, but you know what I mean. It's the cycle of life, which sometimes we lose track of in our busy everyday checking emails, responding to texts, 24/7 lifestyles, right?
And the cherry blossoms are a symbol of peace and friendship with our relationship with Japan. And, you're exactly right, a sense of renewal. And don't we need more peace and friendship across the world? So, yeah, they stand for many things. And we get real excited in our house when it's cherry blossom time.
I'm sure you agree, Massee, huh?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, that kindred friendship which formed many years ago with Helen Herron Taft and the Japanese government was special, and it remains special today. That's why you see the national celebration in Washington D.C. and events like Nicholas Inman have so graciously formed over the years. So we're grateful for that for sure.
Well, we are grateful for the two of you spending this amount of time with us, really celebrating this incredible event. Reverend, give us the details again of the where, the when, the who, the what.
So the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival is the last full weekend in April every year. And this year, that's April 27th through the 30th. And we will observe National First Ladies Day during that time period on Saturday, April the 29th, which is planned to be observed the last Saturday of April every year.
That's fantastic. That is wonderful. What's the weather like there in Missouri right about now? Kind of nice.
We're about 80 and we can't complain. So if you want rain, plan a cherry blossom festival.
That's right.
Cherry blossom.
and Massee, Atlanta, is it a little steamy right now?
We have 70-degree weather here. So
wow, and it's like 90 up here in the Northeast.
But it's sun shining right now. So yeah, very nice.
Well, thanks for all the time. Truly an honor and a distinct pleasure to have you two accomplished and kind gentlemen joining us on the Jim Masters Show series. I will keep that porch light on for you. As I always say, you are welcome back anytime, whether it's during the course of the year or each year to celebrate this specific event. I hope the show met whatever expectations you had and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with the two of you.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Somebody that just wanted to chime in and say thanks for joining us as well. Mr. George Burns is with us.
Say goodnight, Greg. Right?
He always pops in. My aunt collected dolls, and she had a room filled with thousands of dollars worth of dolls through the family. My mother's the youngest of 16, a big New England family. He got passed down to me, and he pops in every once in a while. He's sort of he's got his little cigar and his red hanky and his little martini below. He's sort of my associate producer. So he chimes in, and he knew many of the presidents that we were talking about. He lived for such a long life.
That's exactly right.
That's it. You guys are the best. Thanks so much for joining us again. An honor and a privilege, and good luck with the event. I really appreciate all this time.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Massee, and thank you, Reverend. We'll see you again soon, okay?
Okay.
Take care. God
care.
bless. Bye-bye now. Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. Here are some details here. Again, you can go to Society of Presidential Descendants, right there.org, and also National First Ladies Day, and that's NATL, and at gmail.com, and also the Cherry Blossom Fest.com. Is that not cool to have? Again, both gentlemen with us here on the show. If you missed anything, you'd like to see this again, we will archive this, and as we get ready to, update it and launch it, we're going to archive this for you as well on our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. We'll be able to see this and share this, and yeah, something really special. Again, celebrating National First Ladies Day. That's hashtag First Ladies Day. So if you want to, use the hashtag as well, feel free. Hashtag First Ladies Day. With the descendants of many of America's greatest first ladies, the National First Ladies Day Commission, founded by Reverend Nicholas Inman, our guest as well. They announced that the National First Ladies Day observed this year on Saturday, April 29th. So if you're watching this, obviously past that date, you're watching this in July or September, keep watch for that, because it would be so wonderful that it becomes, a nationally recognized holiday. That's what they're aiming towards, and they're working towards that feverishly behind the scenes. But right now, they do have this event, the national kickoff ceremony, held in beautiful Marshfield, Missouri, right in the heart of the breadbasket of America, during the Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival. And the day, again, is an occasion that highlights the community service opportunities in communities and demonstrates the results of community service projects. And many, again, descendants from the presidents will be there. Massee McKinley, our very special guest, who was the great-great-nephew of President William McKinley, Mary Jean Eisenhower, of course, of the Eisenhower fame, and also Clifton Truman, Daniel, grandson of President Harry and Bess Truman as well, Patricia M. Taft, great-granddaughter of William Taft, Jennifer Coolidge, Salis Harville, great-granddaughter, and Margaret Hayes Clark, great-granddaughters of Rutherford B. Hayes, the president, of course. And also the program will feature the 135th Army Band Brass Ensemble, and so much more. It's really going to be absolutely special. I just want to let you know that some of the other folks that they were talking about, Ulysses Grant, that's great-grandson, great-great-grandson of Ulysses S. Grant, also an accomplished writer involved in all of this. James Earl Carter, the grandson of President Jimmy and Rosalind Carter. We talked about both of them, a part of this as well, and several other incredible people. So that was great. And a little Americana, a little history there for you, but also celebrating a very special event. And we thank the gentleman for joining us here on the program. I thank you for joining us as well. If this is your first time watching the Jim Masters Show, Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show series, well, feel free to communicate with us. We're very interactive. Thanks for all the great comments as well. We appreciate that during the course of our broadcasts. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to celebrate what we're doing here, give this a thumbs up on our YouTube channel. We'll archive this on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment for us, interact, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. There are hundreds and hundreds of extraordinary episodes with great conversations with amazing guests, great entertainment, music, more, lots of levity right here for you. So around here, as you guys know who watch regularly, or if this is your first time here, we don't say goodbye. We say, see you later, ciao, cheers, Wiedersehen, slancha, shalom, sayonara, moi loop, take care, be well, cheerio. And don't forget to love one another and take care of one another. And we will be here waiting for you for the next episode of the Jim Masters Show series. We appreciate and value every single one of you who watches and supports what we're doing here on our series. It truly is a blessing for me to do this for you as well. We'll see you again on the next one. Thanks again, Jim Masters. Thanking you for your time this time. Till next time on the Jim Masters Show. Be well.